Hi, everybody. This is Justina, and welcome to another class in Web3. I'm here with you to go over decentralization, the concept, and the use of it in Web3. So I'll start with what it means to be centralized versus decentralized. So centralized systems have one point where everything stems out of, for example, centralized databases hold all the information, and they may be backed off in another place, which is still centralized, and all the information can be backed into 3 or 4 places, but really it's one place where the data is stored. Whereas on a decentralized blockchain, you have a lot of users storing that data in different places. What do I mean by that? I mean, so one is a system where you have one point of focus and everything stems out of that system, as you can see with the graphic, and the other system is all the information is stored not in one central location, but in many locations. So that being said, how would that be translated into a physical world? Well, you would have the centralized database in one place, maybe backed off in 2, 3 other places. Whereas with a decentralized storage system, you will have it in many, many places. And this system is less prone to hacking because someone would have to attack all these places at once. Whereas when you have a centralized system, it's a lot easier to attack because you're really just looking at one point of attack. That's why a lot of major companies, even though they spend a lot of money on security, they have more security vulnerabilities. Now, why are these so beneficial? So decentralized blockchains are immutable. The transaction and the data that is entered is irreversible. So if someone one day wakes up and says, well, you own this land, I don't really feel like today you should own it, so I'm going to reverse your land ownership. Well, guess what? On a decentralized system, they would have to go and change that information everywhere. And what are the permissions they would have to have if it's a public blockchain? So it's completely different in that sense. Also, the transactions on a public blockchain are viewable. This data is censorship resistant. The records are permanently recorded, and the users can share the computing power. So, and all of this is enabled because of smart contracts. So we are living in a system where companies like Amazon have storage of data. They store data, and most of the world's data is stored on centralized servers. And as we shift into a Web3 world, that data can be stored in other places. And the thing is, these systems will also allow the users to have more accessibility. And why is this also important? And why are these factors so important? So immutability, like I said, it means once it's there, it's there. You can't just on a whim decide to change things. You cannot just decide to reverse it. It is viewable and transparent. And if you don't like someone and you don't want to do business with them, well, right now, there's ways to stop you to do that. Whereas for example, in a system like Bitcoin, there's no discrimination. It's money that's sent from one address to another, and you cannot just stop that transaction from happening, whether you like it or not. So the human aspect of the politics is taken out of these decentralized systems. And the users can then verify nodes. If I wanted to run a node and validate transactions on a phone, I could do that. You could do that. Anyone can do that. We can all go and use our regular computers. And that's what was happening at the beginning with a platform like Bitcoin, where users were able to do that. Now it's harder, but that doesn't mean it's still centralized. A lot of the computing power is shared throughout the world, and the users can contribute to that system. And that is enabled because at the back end, you have a smart contract that's saying anyone can join, anyone can validate, this person and that person can transact, because there isn't something saying otherwise. It's not like a political system. Well, today we're friends, tomorrow we're having a conflict, so I can put sanctions on you. You cannot put a sanction on Bitcoin. And that's what's special about these decentralized systems. And these are the features that they have. And how do they meet the needs of the current society, and how will they continue to meet the needs in our society? Well, people have needs like identity, money, land ownership, and insurance. And some say the future will be decentralized. And what is that? What will that mean? So right now, there's a lot of people that are unbanked. There's a lot of people that don't have digital identity because it's difficult for them to join systems. But there are more people in the world that happen to have cell phones that have access to clean drinking water. So if you can download a app on your wallet, even though you can't go in your local government and show that you're someone, because let's say you're living in a country where your parents don't have an identity and you don't have an identity. But you know what? You can go to the convenience store and you can buy a cell phone. Well, if you can buy that cell phone, guess what? You can plug yourself into Web3. You can plug yourself into these decentralized systems where you can download games and start doing play to earn. So that's like a case study that actually did happen. People during the pandemic, during COVID-19 in the Philippines, they needed money. And so they started to play games like Axie Infinity from the comfort of their own homes. And they were able to actually join these systems and make money and get paid out through smart contracts, because the information regarding their work and their gaming was being able to be put in, and then they were able to get paid out and then convert that money into use in their daily lives. What's another need? People need to have, and so countries where that is established, it is very easy. So you go to the bank, and having the identity allows you to access all these services that you need. But in a place where you may not have that, that could be a very critical factor. And now with Web3, whether you have it or not, you can still use the features. And the other thing I'm going to talk about, and I talked in the other class, was money and decentralized money, money with transparency. People, let's say you don't have your identity, then you cannot get a loan. Well, guess what? If you start doing a play to earn game and then you make that money online, you join Axie, you didn't need an identity. You just needed to connect yourself and plug yourself into that system. Guess what? The next thing you can do is you can collateralize your money right there using decentralized finance, and you can get a loan from yourself to yourself using decentralized finance. This is unheard of in the current system. If I don't have a credit rating because I don't have an identity, I cannot transact. If I'm a user and you've stored data on me and you took my privacy and you can start to discriminate against me. You can start saying, well, you know what? Guess what? You went to jail. That's your family history. I'm not loaning you any money. I know the information about you and I don't want to do business with you. Well, that discriminates against you. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that's the reality of the situation. But now let's say you decide to change your life around. How can you transact within a system like that? Well, what if you're anonymous and you do play to earn and you're really good at play to earn and you would like to take a loan out from yourself to start a business? You can do that using decentralized finance. This is a game changer for people. And let's say you want to buy land. Well, in the developed world, it's very easy for us to say, well, I'm going to go and use my identity. I'm going to use my money. I'm going to go to a bank and I'm going to get a loan from the bank because that's what I'm able to do where I live. But now let's say you're living somewhere else and you would like to own land. Well, how can you do that? Let's say if you don't even have an identity. Well, in the future, let's say buildings are tokenized, land is tokenized. You can buy land in the metaverse. You can buy land in another country. You can buy a piece of land because now buildings and land can be tokenized. So you can use everything in Web3 today to actually complete what you want to do. And it's when you are doing the transaction to buy land ownership, let's say in a place like the metaverse, they're not going to be checking your identity. They're going to be checking your electronic wallet signature. We're not in a place right now where there's regulatory, where there are regulations around this. It is still in development. I'm not saying that's how it's going to be for forever. I'm sure there's going to be regulations catching up to these things. But for the moment, if someone was to start and do a play to earn game, gain money and take a loan from themselves, they can then go out and buy land. Well, when land is also connected to the digital world, I'm very curious to see what will be the regulations about the purchase of that land, the privacy around that, the smart contracts enforcing it. And next off, insurance. Insurance companies, for the most part, are centralized. We are going to see a pop-up with insurance companies that are decentralized, that serve clients wherever they are. We are living in an era where people are traveling, where they're going in all sorts of places. They no longer are bound by physical geography. We've seen with COVID-19, a lot of people moving outside of their homes and working in other places. Those people are going to want insurance, health insurance, for wherever they go. Well, they can get that. There could be DAOs that open that are decentralized that say, you know what, you're no longer bound by geography. You can live anywhere, and we have partners everywhere, or what we provide insurance wherever that you go. And that's why decentralization is going to be so important for human needs, because we've been living in systems that are centralized and that are limited. And these decentralized systems and these decentralized blockchains completely shift the business model from the consumer being the product to us really using our own data in the way that we want. And not only that, they allow for privacy, anonymity. And that means you can transact and have more rights, more human rights, without really having to have dealt with other regulatory bodies, because that is still being defined. And like I said, we don't really know where that's going, but it's an interesting thing that's occurring right now. And we are going to see the evolution of this. And we're going to see the evolution of power shift, because in decentralized autonomous organizations, there is technically no one. It is not a centralized system. There's technically no one who is leading it. It is a headless beast because there is no one running it. Anyway, thank you for listening to me, and I hope to speak with you in the next class.